It's Friday, December 6th, St. Nicholas Day. I don't know if anyone celebrates that anymore. But, I've got a lot of things to say, and I'm just going to go with the flow with whatever comes out. First of all, it's more or less, the main thing I want to talk about is my dad and the senior generation. And I'm understanding a lot more why kids don't take parents as serious as we think they should. But that's because when we were younger, it made more sense. Now that our kids are looking at us, seeing how what our parents say to us makes no sense, because none of that stuff matters anymore, really. Like the stuff they talk about in the old traditions and stuff are sort of dwindling away, and the kids are looking at it like, well, that's not even now. But instead what they're doing is they're making new trends and following along with stuff. And unfortunately, the stuff they're following along with isn't the most ideal way that we would like them to do things. And the in-betweens, in between the elderly and the young, we've got this I'd say from 25, because the first few years after high school, you're either in college or you're just getting started. So between 25 and, let's say, 55, you're still young at 55. There's no age limit cutoff of when you're young. Let's just say retirement age. We'll go from 25 to retirement age. And you have that whole gap of time where you could have some kind of meaning on the future of the world up and coming and the present world at hand. But a lot of people just go with whatever job they get or whatever they're used to, and whatever gets comfortable, whatever routine they fall into, and they just follow that for the rest of their lives. And just, okay, like my dad, he talks about the weather. He talks about, like right now the toilet's been being fixed, or he's been messing with the toilet, so it's something about the toilet every day. Something about if he, mows the lawn or plows the snow out of the driveway. It's every conversation of that day will be about a pin that broke, or about like a belt that snapped, and his, the step-by-step of instructions of how he fixed it. And it's because more or less in his day and age, it was a hands-on world where they taught their younger generations how to fix things or how to do things like that. And the more or less the stuff that they talk about now is like holding on to that political idea of the government being on our side and da-da-da-da. It's not anything like that. There's no side at all. They're not looking for a side to be on. They're just looking to be in charge, which is fine, and I don't blame them, and I'm not saying anything bad about it. But like with my dad, he was saying he's going to watch the college football games, not because he wants to, but because he's got nothing else to do, doesn't want to watch reruns. And I'm thinking, like, it doesn't matter that you're 70. You can still do a lot of stuff. There's so many things you could be doing with your time. You could plan your future. You still have a future left. And if you don't want to plan your future, you should actually, this sounds really silly to whatever, plan your death, because your death is an event that you wait for your whole life, which is creating your next life. And there's nothing wrong with preparing for your next life. It's not going to offend anyone in our family if instead of taking time to sit there and watch TV when you're not spending time with anyone in the family anyway, if you take some time and go inside your own self and learn about who we are and what we are, and people need to do that. And I don't know how to say that to people my dad's age. And the same thing is with the people that are my kids' age. Like, both of those generational groups don't really believe in much. And they believe in dogma or whatever religion they were raised with. And in my generation, between the 25 and elderly group, is more like they didn't have any bringing up. And if they did, it was one of those typical dogmatic religions. And other than that, it's like no belief in anything. Whatever it is what it is. And that's what most people are living with, that kind of standard idea of whatever it is. And I'm not too worried about it. I'll just do some dance on TikTok or post all kinds of stuff about material things that mean nothing. Like my dad's going on about, we're not going to have any Christmas gifts in front of the tree this year. And I'm like, so what? Like, why do we need gifts? What are we gifting each other for? Here, have some more stuff you don't need. And I'm not saying that to be repeating anything someone says. Like, the literal thing that I'm thinking is we don't need any of it. And on top of it, I hear I hear most of the time is people talking about food. And that's another thing that, like I said, I'm just going to say whatever comes because it's important to me. And it's like, it needs to be talked about. Like, while you're eating food, you talk about your next meal, and then the next meal, and you talk about you went shopping and you found there was a sale on this meat, and there was a sale on that meat, and and then a commercial comes on, 2 Arby's French dip subs, big, like 9-inch buns loaded with meat, dead animal, and then, that one isn't enough, there's always a backup sandwich, that's what the backup sandwich is for. Yeah, just like kill a bunch of extra stuff to make backup sandwiches for people who can probably skip eating for a week and be okay. We don't need to eat 3 fucking times a day. Like, the point is, like, people, I may be saying it, and I'm coming from a place where I know I'm eating differently. I'm feeling amazing, and I'm an example. I'm not just saying it, and nobody's telling me anything. I'm learning it all myself, which is whatever. And it's not like you have to do that. And it's like I'm only talking with this tone of voice because I'm excited. I'm not upset. I'm just going and going and going, and I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. I'm just letting it come out because it's important to do that sometimes. There's too much stuff going on for me to try to be like, well, what am I going to talk about? I love my dad so much, and I just see him going through a lot of the same ideas over and over and over and over again. Like watching the news to see what the weather's going to be like, to see what's going on with the politics, because in his mind, that's part of his subconscious mind program. So he's got to see more of it to keep feeding that because it's what he's familiar with. And if you turn that off, it's unfamiliar. You don't want to turn the news off for too long, or he just doesn't seem like himself. Well, his self is whatever he makes it. And it's time to be a little uncomfortable and do something with your life before you die. I don't want to see my dad die doing this the rest of his life. Watching TV, watching the news, and tending to the yard in the driveway. I mean, that's not what life's supposed to be about. It's not about breaking off and living in your own little corner and being like, what's up with the neighbors? The only people I really know that well now these days is my neighbors and the people that I talked to 20 years ago. Let's go out and interact or be involved somehow. That's the point. And I'm not just saying that too about my dad. It's like for everybody. People aren't interacting anymore. We have no involvement with each other. And I'm at a point right now with all the stuff that I know and that I'm wise to, that I'm positive and definite, so sure of, that the stuff that I'm receiving, the information that I have for everyone, is more important than anything Tesla or Einstein or anyone like that has ever discovered. It's what's really happening in our life, not just one little part of it, not just one little theory, not just one little idea or some invention. It's everything. All those things are wrapped up in what I know, because I have I don't even know how to say it, because saying the God frequency makes it sound silly. It makes it sound unrealistic. And that's the problem, is we have words that can't explain this stuff. And now that I'm a realized being or an awakened master, those things make it sound silly and foolish. I am totally full of love for every living thing and every non-living thing that there is in the world, because I know that we're all creating it. Together we're creating it. But what I see, and my depiction of it, is everything I'm creating. And everything that you see, even if it's something that I'm also creating, it's because we agree on it, that's the reason it's there. The reason that you see the same thing as somebody else is because your mind allows that to be visible through your subconscious program. And I hate to say program, like I've said before, because I don't want to compare it to a computer, but a computer is compared to us, not the other way around. We are that dynamic and that complex. We're way more complex than a computer. And people think that technology is interesting. No. I mean, it is, but genetics and our anatomy and just our psychology is so magnificent. Our spirituality is the most magnificent. I mean, it's so hard to understand that it should take everybody, they should love to do it, and they should want to do it every day. Because once you touch spirit, there's nothing else that's important. Having a house, having a car, having people like you, having money, having all that stuff, that's great stuff. But if you don't love yourself and know who you truly are, what's the point in going through life stumbling through, wondering what it's all about? Once you know what it's all about, you see everyone else stumbling through, wondering what it's all about. And they won't let you help them, because even if you say the things that mean the most, they'll look you in the eye, you'll see that they get it, and then all of a sudden you'll see something just fade away, and they'll be like, so I heard it's supposed to snow tomorrow, or back to something else that means nothing, that's so unimportant, about Trump and his impeachment and all that kind of stuff. It's just a distraction. Some guy on the news that made a video or made some kind of campaign about Trump doing something wrong, and he never even voted. He said that he voted for Trump, and Trump didn't change things like he said, and he never even voted. And who cares whether he voted or not? But he made the mistake of saying he did when he didn't. That doesn't even matter. Who cares? Like, I don't even want to hear this stuff, because it's just wasted energy, wasted thought space, and I get rid of it. Like today when I meditate, I got to get rid of those things, because that's what you do. You meditate so you can remove thoughts and ideas before they build neurotransmitters in your mind. I don't know how else to say it, but like, before I save that as something that I want to remember, I remove it. Or else I put a block so that everything was here yesterday. It doesn't update all the new stuff today that I don't want. Like, I can do that because I've made ways for myself to do it. You basically come up with your own ways of doing things, and then you do them, and you practice them, and they become your life. And the more you realize that, and the more you do it, you can actually exercise the ability and implement your own procedure of living. Like, I have my own way of doing almost everything. I see other people around me, I'm like, oh, well, I do that differently. And I don't say that, but I'm thinking in my mind. But it's not that I'm trying to compare, it's just that I'm like, I wonder why people do things so unconsciously. I don't blame them, but I want to help them. And how do I help them if no one's willing to listen to someone who has a lot of sense to talking to people? Not because I'm trying to say be like me, like I've said before. It's because I want them to understand what's really happening. And not many people know. I would have to say that I'm one of the very few, if not the only one, who knows what's really happening. And that's a brave thing to say, and I'm sure many people have said it before, but they were mistaken, because they don't have the outline of everything. This is a thing that explains every concept and everything, because it is your belief system. And it's not just saying it because somebody said it before, and I read it in a book, and all the masters teach this, and I don't get it, but I know that if I repeat it over and over, I'll get it. But then I still have my ego attached to it, and I'm thinking that I'm going to get rich from it, and even thinking about getting rich is a distraction, because money's just an idea, and you got to do it by this time or this age, because that's a distraction of numbers and ages. Those are just distractions too. Those are measurements of time and numerology. Like, we have so much to learn, and all we can do is take it back to the source. The source is everything. So any idea besides where we came from is an unnecessary idea. The only ideas we're thinking about is where we're going and what we're doing to improve. Other than that, they're not worthy of ideas or time or energy. So people start talking about stuff that means nothing, or explaining somebody's favorite team or something that happened with them. I mean, you be cordial and kind and listen, but after a while, it's one of those things you remove yourself, because those little petty things don't matter anymore. And it sucks to say that, because if people had important things to look at and do, life would be more interesting for them, and it would be more interesting for the people around them. Most people are just doing the same old things that most people are doing, and it's pretty boring, especially when you're awakened and you can see people doing that to themselves, and they won't listen to anyone who knows better. But that's all I'm going to say for now, because I